if I can grab everyone's attention, you want to close that door for me? So there's been questions during lunch break here about teardown classes, and some people may be concerned about before you install a boiler, how to service it. Again, we put a lot of time and effort into these between the Wrath website and what I'm showing here is the Laars website. And here under resources, this is the Laars.com. Resources, click on that. And right at the bottom are videos. I'm going to click on videos. And in this example, I'm going to talk about residential. So how to remove the blower. Here's the common error codes. I'll click on that one. Let's see if we can get this to play. So this is the common error codes that we just went through. Okay. So you can view all of this. There is audio to it. It's just muted right now, but everything we had just talked about and shown that video, showed the PowerPoint, is also here under Laars Academy. How to do a combustion setup. Pull this up, right? And let me go to full screen. And here's an example. Again, there's audio to this and how to remove the cover. Now, the combustion setup on this product is going to be the same as combustion setup on the floor 199 models, okay? Talk about, again, the diff switches of diff switch 6 and 7, putting your analyzer in the flue, checking incoming gas pressure, okay, and setting up combustion. We even give you the charts here right at the bottom of the screen. Let me pause this. Let me X this out. Showing incoming, what your CO2 values should be, all right, at high fire and low fire. So everything is right here, showing you how to do this. So that's another example. When you want to get into, what's this one? Removal of the burner and blower for the wall type. We have the floor as well. So if you got debris and what have you in that burner, we even tell you what tools to use. We walk you through this. So you guys have been asking about a teardown class. Here it is, guys. You come to a teardown class, right? Call that May this year. But yet you don't have to pull one apart until September. Are you going to remember? Here it is. Okay. So you can view this right from the mechanical room, the basement, or your vehicle. You're going out the next day to a job and you've never done combustion setup. You can view the combustion setup video that evening. So it's all there for you. All right. So these videos are extremely valuable. Now, let me just advance it, showing him pulling the actual blower out. Okay, this is on a 199. It'll come out as one piece. The 140 models will come out in two pieces. Okay, and then again, this is the wall. We also have videos for the floor models. So again, these are extremely valuable to you guys. How to get in and clean heat exchangers, all of it. All right. What else do we have in here? How to pull the pump and three-way valve, okay? How to fill and purge the system. When I talked about you need to give it a TT demand, all right? If you're trying to purge these wall hungs with a diverter valve, Mike showed that he can't get any water coming out of this until he gives it a TT demand. Once he gives it a TT demand, then he can flush that that air. So again, we've tried to think of the most common issues you may have, even getting in and programming boilers, okay? How to clean the heat exchangers. So we have residential sections, anything from the Neotherm to the Mini Therm. That's right next to Charlie right there, which I'll probably do an overview with this product today. So a lot of videos there for you, all right? So that's under resources. Now you can go to Wrath Associates and they link you right to this, or you can go right to Laars.com. You don't need a password to get in. Also, up at the very top up here, okay, there's a YouTube link. If you are going to go to YouTube, please go through our link, okay? So I just clicked on it. Down here, we have 4 options. Click on service videos, and we get hit with a lot of ads. So let me click this ad out now. So an example right here is the $3.99. Okay. And this is how to program it. We've also just completed a combustion setup video. So again, the video is even how to program these. All right. The $3.99 is the boiler I'm going to go over next. But on the right-hand column, there's a whole bunch of videos right here for you guys. We have 50 some odd videos from our commercial to our residential. I just had a meeting last week, so there's 54 of them. We've got another 8 we want to get done, hopefully by July. So again, use these. They're there for you. They're not there for John or me. All right. So, and again, I prefer you going to us if you're going to go to YouTube. Why? You got a lot of guys out there with smartphones, and they're in mechanical rooms doing stuff. There was a video, I'm not going to mention names or anything, of someone that replaced 3 components, right? Billed a customer a ton of money, and all it turned out to be was a hot surface igniter. And he's videotaping this and blaming the manufacturer. Okay. So, so again, YouTube is at least it's John, myself, maybe even a Kenny, Mike, those guys. We've actually done these videos. All right. So that's under Laars, Laars.com. Products here is residential. That's what we're talking about today. Let's say a combi water heater and boiler. Click on that. Website's running slow. And here's the information for manuals. Example, FT series boiler, floor boiler. You can scroll to the bottom where it says spec and docs. And if someone walked off with the operation installation manual, here it is right here for you. Okay. So everything is right there. Whatever page you were on last. So obviously the last page I had pulled up was that terminal strip, but here is my manual. Okay. So Rath Associates will also provide this information for you as well. Okay. So again, feel free to use the website. It's very valuable. And like I said, we have quite a few of the videos already out there for you. What happened? We're still recording, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For those in the recording, just bear with us. We have a little technical difficulty. All right. So I want to talk about another FT series. So we've talked about the wall hung, 100,000 to 199 heat only, 140, 199. We talked about the floor, 199,000 BTUs. And this one here is the 301 399. It's the big brother to the FT floor series. You can either do wall hung or that floor stand. And someone was asking me earlier about a floor stand, okay? And you can order it either way, or just purchase the floor stand. So you can hang these right on the wall, or I prefer floor standing. Again, you get into a 301 or 399,000, you add water to that heat exchanger, you got some weight on it. And the floor, we can go top or bottom connect with this, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So 95% AFUE, we have 10-to-1 turn down on the 399,000 BTU model, and a 7.5-to-1 on the 301 model. Right? We can cascade up to 4 of these boilers. These are not combis, by the way. This is heat only. If you needed volume water heating, you would add an indirect tank. All right. We still have that smart priority. That's 80% of modulation. We want to shut off that system pump and provide heat to the domestic as needed. And again, one of the easiest products to market to convert to propane, less than 4 minutes in the field. No secret handshake with the programming or all of that. You replace the orifice and you take your dip switch and put that to the propane position. Again, wall hung or floor standing.
Quick question.
Yes.
You brought up cascade here and you said you could cascade 20 on the others.
Yeah.
Is that just on the water side or on the water?
Heat only. So it's the heat only models.
Okay, but can you cascade the venting as well?
So we can do common venting on this product.
Okay.
All right, on the 301, 399. All right, so model numbers. So the NX, the last two digits, would be for the wall hung. If you would order the the NF that comes with floor standing. And it's really up to the distributor, wholesaler, what are they bringing in? Okay, so in some cases, they can just bring in the stand and you can order that separate. So that's available with floor stand. It ships flat and it's assembled. It's a heavy duty stand and it has it's just assembled in the field. And then we even have a video on this, how to assemble it and mount the boiler on top. And this access panel right here, you can remove that and gain access to the front if you've got any piping or drainage or anything down below underneath that in the floor standing as well. Vent materials, we are certified for PVC, CPVC, stainless, or polypropylene. Keep in mind, we are in New York, so no PVC or CPVC allowed, okay? I apologize about that. All right, so vertical or horizontal venting up to 65 feet and 3-inch. If you want to go greater than 65 feet, increase that vent to 4-inch. We can go up to 150 feet, and that's each. That's not combined, okay? And then follow the instructions on how many feet per fitting, etc. Right? So now we offer you up to 150 feet on the 301, 399. We have that built-in sensor now to detect cross-contamination. So this is the only product we have it on currently, right? And that is really a negative cabinet, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. So BMS compatible. Top and bottom connects. So you can either connect your piping gas off the top or the bottom or both. Okay. So example, I've got a hydronic heating loop and I have an indirect tank. I can take my hydronic heating maybe off the top and the indirect tank off the bottom. Okay. And I can mix match those as well. We can control the boiler pump, which is built in. No, apologize. It's not built into this one, apologize. We control the boiler pump, domestic pump, and system pump in a low temperature pump zone. So we can control up to 4 zones here. High and low temperature zones we can control that 24 volt mixing valve. ASME H stamping tested up to 10,000 feet. So again, stainless steel fire tube heat exchanger. There is no indirect tank in this. This is heat only. And there is the stainless steel. I'm showing the residential models. And this is the commercial model as well. All right. So the again, we still use the aluminum sleeve or aluminum core for the advanced high fin technology to transfer that heat. The flue gas to the stainless. 80 psi on the heat exchanger rating, by the way. Facing display, again, you guys should be familiar with that. We already talked about that. This internet is running slow again. So again, simple programming, demand status, error code, diagnostic code. We do have the advanced technology for smart priority. If you don't want smart priority, you can throw the dip switch off and go to traditional priority. Okay. We'll talk about that as well. And you also have the maintenance and service reminders on the display, so the end user can see that and call in for service. So I've talked about this before. We can provide both heat and hot water, so the indirect tank, heat to the zones and heat out to the indirect tank. And if we hit 80% of modulation, we want to control that boiler and system pump, and we're gonna shut off that pump. I'm providing all the heat to the indirect tank. When we start to catch up and it modulates back down to 50%, we will re-energize that pump. So now we have a built-in flue gas detector. And what I want to talk about here is this is a negative cabinet. What do I mean by a negative cabinet? Combustion air is brought to the cabinet. So right here, we have a collar with the screen for that, to protect that combustion air. And that comes right into the cabinet. On the other products we had talked about, we have a rubber boot. One leg on top down. Yeah, so we have a rubber boot here, that's ducted to the blower, right? So you've got your boot inside there, combustion air is brought to here, and then that comes right into the blower, right? This is combustion air that comes to the cabinet. So by the way, when you're doing a combustion analysis, you want to why? If I go 45 feet of combustion air and 3 elbows, that's a restriction. It's like sucking through a straw. You need to take that into consideration, any negative cabinet. All right, but so if cross-contamination exists, we're coming into a negative cabinet, we can identify that. So we have a sensor right here in the cabinet, right next to where the fresh air comes into that cabinet, right? On the other products, we would have to put some type of sensor in the ducting to that blower. Okay. So again, it's going to protect against flue gas recirculation, be that at 20% of the time, is it 80% of the time? We'll talk about those settings. Okay, you can adjust that in the field. And that will potentially lock the boiler out depending on how you want to control it. So here, this is right out of the manual. Error code 44, it's defaulted in the on position. We're referring to CO, but this is done in CO2, okay? And you can convert those values if you needed to. But so it's defaulted in the on position. So we're looking for CO2 coming back to the cabinet. And we will lock that boiler out or give you an alarm. So parameter 45, for 8,000 parts per million of CO2, okay? And if it sees it, you have an option, parameter 46, hard lockout or soft lockout, okay? So hard lockout is based on you have to have an outdoor sensor hooked up, which we give you the outdoor sensor, guys. So what does that mean? That means if the temperature outside is above 35 degrees, and I'm cross-contaminated, you as a contractor can choose that as an on position. We'll lock that boiler out. And at night, if that temperature drops to 21 degrees or anything below 35 degrees, that boiler comes out of lockout, will at least protect the building from freezing. Okay. Next day, temperature goes up above 35, it goes back into hard lockout. So you have that option. We are not defaulting that in the on position, okay? On position is default right now, is just gonna register on the home screen, all right? So we can protect that heat exchanger, if you will. Circuit board's pretty much identical. It is a different part number versus the wall and floor boiler on the 199 bombs, okay? And again, BACnet compatible. And we also have dip switches that we talked about before. So dip switch 1 is, do we have a 399 or a 301,000 BTU boiler? Okay. So that's based on the name tag or nameplate of the boiler. Doesn't mean I can take a 301 and turn it into a 399, guys. Not happening. Heat exchanger is a little larger on the 399. There's some fan speeds that are different on the 301 versus 399. Dip switch 3, it's defaulted for smart priority. If you want to go back to traditional or regular priority, you may, okay? So again, smart priority is done on modulation. Traditional priority would be, if I have a domestic demand, I'm only going to operate that boiler in DHW until I satisfy the indirect tank. Then I'll go back to heating. Does that make sense?
Does that have a like a time on it?
No, not in smart priority, no.
No, the regular priority.
That's, I'm sorry, not in, yes,
When you start getting
answers
big
no.
shit,
I get it, I
and
get
it's
it,
never
no,
gonna go, and
It-
now your heat's down and
Yep.
you're never gonna get out of priority.
correct, correct,
So
you are
don't
correct,
have a timer on that?
yep, yep, you are correct, yep. The, correct, it doesn't time out. That's something that we've talked about, maybe on another revision or firmware change, we may consider that. To your point, you know, maybe in an hour and a half, 90 minutes, come out of domestic mode, go back to heating.
Well, I think even 30 minutes they do it on relays now. It's
30 minutes, I don't like. Example of 30 minutes. So you can have a multi-dwelling condo complex, right? We did have this with our neotherm years ago with Honeywell controls. Let's say there's 12
could
apartments.
run out of hot water, I get it.
Their demand between 7 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. and 7:45, that's an hour and 15 minutes or whatever their time is, they're under domestic load. If you did a timeout in 30 minutes, now people don't have.
I was talking about residential.
Yeah, okay, right. And diff switch 5 is for natural or propane.
Yeah.
Diff switch 6 and 7, that's your diff switches for high and low fire. And John's point earlier, if you leave that in an on position, such as shown here, diff switch 7 is in the on position for low fire. When you walk away, you're stuck in low fire. So make sure those diff switches are back in the off position when you're done with your combustion analysis. Top or bottom connects, all right? So we have both water on the top and bottom and gas on the top and bottom. So you can do either or. Pressure gauge is right there front facing. Terminal strip is also front facing. Very easily labeled, okay? And we even have, let's see if we go through this. Max output for the amperage is 1.6 amps on these. Most of us are using ECM type pumps, which are, you know, less than an amp anyways, or half amp. Terminals that enlarge this, here we go. So main power is coming in on the first 3 terminals. Boiler pump. We want to control the boiler pump, system pump. We can do a low temperature pump zone and an indirect pump. So all of those terminals are there. Next here on the low voltage, there's your 0 to 10. So Techmar controls or whomever want to control the modulation. 24-volt output is strictly for that low water, additional low water cutoff that you guys are required to have on the system. And it is a heating boiler, so we can do cascading up to 4. So we're gonna have the cascade sensor and VHW temperature sensor or aquastat for your indirect tank. And lastly is if we're gonna control a 3 or 4-way mixing valve, we can do that with the 24 volts. LTT would be the low temperature TT demand for a low temp zone, so I could have a system that has high temp and low temp, okay, or a dwelling. And you have your LTT sensor, so that's the sensor that's gonna go out to the pipe. TT is our XX from any zone type panel. OS is our outdoor sensor, very simple.
And you can't activate the low temperature zone without that sensor, won't let it turn on.
Same thing with cascading. You want to talk about that?
If you're in the jam though, with the LTT sensor, you have one of our parts bag kits, the return water sensor for the units, 10K. Doesn't care where it's at, as long as it sees one, they'll let you get the LTT.
Yep, so those sensors between LTT or even when you cascade, you have to have a sensor. It's almost like having a rooftop HVAC unit. If you have a thermostat on the wall and someone rips it off, there's nothing telling it what the temperature is and how to control it. So you have to have those sensors installed. On the outlet of the heat exchanger, you're gonna have, we also have a low water cutout. But again, that's an auto reset. So here in New York, you are required to have it external. We still give you, previously, I talked about a 3-in-1 adapter. We have a 4-in-1 adapter, so you can hook that external low water cutoff up out there. We have the built-in high limits and the supply temperature sensor right there. So if I'm targeting 140, 160, 180. Those 2 yellow wire sensor, that's where it is. Okay, right at the outlet of the heat exchanger. And by the way, if you look, that tees, so I can go up and do a top connect piping for supply to the building or bottom or both. My example before, if I want to feed heat out to the building, maybe off the top of the boiler, and then the indirect off the bottom, I can. Other additional components here, your ignition transformer. We saw that on one of the other videos of how to troubleshoot that. You have your igniter, your flame rod, and there is that CO2 gas, flue gas detector. So flue gases are entering that cabinet, will identify that and display that right on your display, unless you choose that as a hard lockout. Combustion air in and exhaust out. And again, we have that screen or strainer to protect that burner. And you got your exhaust collar right here. And so that exhaust test port is for your analyzer. We also have the return water temperature sensor, pressure gauge probe right there. That's on the return back. We have the air pressure transducer. And very small transformer. Again, we're not trying to power up your Ecobee, your Nest thermostats, all of that, or control zone panels or zones. This transformer is for the boiler. And it is fuse protected. So we have the heat exchanger. At the bottom of that is your condensate collection pan. That's where your condensate is going to collect and then come out your condensate trap. Flue collector, and then your flue pipe up the back right side and then out the top. So this is really a 4-in-1 brass adapter, even though I have it listed as a 3-in-1. It's got multiple taps. So you can use your air. These all come with the boiler. So air elimination, relief valve. You can put your low water cutoff here on the right-hand side. Wire that in. And this fitting here is off the top of the boiler. So this connection will be feeding out to the system. And if I'm not using this, we give you the cap. We give you 2 caps that, excuse me, that if I'm doing bottom connects off this boiler, I'll cap this right here. Okay. So there are 2 caps. An example of the 2 caps, I don't think I show them here. The other cap, I would recommend if you put it off the bottom, it has another plug in it that you can take that plug out and do a boiler drain. So you can drain that boiler. Okay. Here's your cabinet sizes. So they're small. And we're showing top view for your water connections, and flue connections, gas connections, front view and bottom view for your water connections. We can mix match these boilers. A lot of times when you cascade, depending on the manufacturer, they want them like sizes. We can mix match. We have 2 offerings here, a 301, 399. So example, I can put in 2 301s, 2 399s, and my water connections will all be the same. Okay, off the top or bottom. So when you're cascading them and venting as well, we give you handles to lift these up and put them in position. You'll have knockouts for low voltage wiring, cascading cables or sensors on the side panels as well. And line voltage knockouts on the bottom. That's where your line voltage comes in to the boiler or the appliance. Right. Condensate is also off the bottom. So this is just one of the spec sheets that's available. Again, you guys can pull this information. Oops. You guys can pull this information up. Don't know what just happened here. I think we're losing the internet again. So example, gas supply pressure, 3.5 to 10.5 on natural, 8 to 14 on propane, etc. So all of the information is here that you guys can pull up as well. And like I said, we can do 4 of these. We can mix match them. And we're showing even here delta T's in pipe size. So if I have 2 301s with a 25-degree delta, it's 2.5-inch pipe. Down here, the next column down, if I have 3 301s, 25-degree delta would be 3-inch pipe, 35 would be 2.5, 45 would be 2. And if I mix match these, so 2 3-to-1s and a single, 1 399, 3-inch for a 25-degree delta, 2.5, et cetera. So we give you that information. So just heads up on that. And your communication cascade cables plug into the boards. So from one board through the knockouts to the next board, okay? So if you're cascading, try and keep these tighter together, all right? And follow those instructions for the cascade manual of distance. So don't plan on putting these 4 feet apart and then trying to cascade them, because the cables, you can't cut those wires and redo them, okay? And resplice them. So cables are short, so follow those instructions.
It's like the FT residential.
Yep. Yep,
Where you need further spacing, you add a cable, and now you're down a boiler.
correct. Yep. So again, just follow the instructions that come with it. We gave you a couple selections here for a couple of pumps that we deal with, so we have that information, but you know,
Armstrong.
so Armstrong Pumps, reach out to Rath Associates for the Armstrong pumps here in New York, okay? And then also for indirect selections, if you're purchasing through us, we have with Takeo and Grumpus, or like I said, reach out to Rath Associates here in New York, and we can they'll quote you on the Armstrong pump. So I think you guys get the smart priority again. We went through this earlier. So there's no diverter valve, so we don't shut down the burner. It's seamless transition from heating to hot water. No motorized diverter valve, fuel ignition stops and starts. So here we're showing a piping drawing, and so CH demand, and we energized P1, which is the boiler pump. We're energizing P2, which is the system pump. We're providing heat out to the system. If we get a call for the indirect tank, now we have a combination of heat and hot water. So we'll energize the P4 pump, which is for the indirect tank. We'll pull also heat out to that indirect tank. And now if our modulation modulates up to 80% of modulation, so example here, let me go back. So we had one zone calling. So let's say a second zone calls or a third zone. And now we have a high demand. Everything's been, this example is in demand. That modulation gets to 80%. We will shut off the P1 pump only. We'll allow the P2 system pump to operate, still flowing some water, and allowing the boiler now only to energize the indirect tank. As that modulates down to 50%, we will reintroduce that P1 pump, providing it again. So you guys would very rarely see this happen. It happens, but it's not something that the end user is going to see. Does that make sense? Because you still have some flow out in that system when we keep that system pump energized. You're not going to dissipate that heat in a matter of 30 seconds. Okay? You're still running that heat loop. All right. And if you don't like that, you can go back to regular or traditional priority is your other option. And then we could do the same with cascading. And your indirect tank comes off the follower or member boiler. So just follow these installation instructions in the I&O manuals as well. And the low temp zone with a mixing valve, follow that as well, and how to wire that up and operate that. So again, that mixing valve, we provide the 24 volts. No third party needed for the control of programming. Now we can see a better understanding and adjust the water temperatures output accordingly. So we're able to manage this a lot better, and it simplifies the installation quite a bit. Venting, again, we have 3 or 4 inch vent here. If you're using 3-inch vent, you're good for 65 feet each. But let's just example talk about the exhaust. Don't forget you have For every 90 on this left-hand column, 5 foot for every 90 would be calculated in, 2.5 feet for every 45. If I was 50 feet and had 4 elbows, right, I'm now over my 65 foot allowance. I have to go to 4-inch, which now I can go up to 150 feet. And it's gonna still use the same calculations for the 90s and 45s. All right, and we've talked about this before. Again, you should not be flush mounted with your exhaust and combustion air flush to the building. Your exhaust should be extending beyond, especially in low fire. You want to get those flue gases out and away with less opportunity of flue gas recirculation. A better option would be come out of the dwelling, 90 up, and get a minimum of 12-inch separations there. All right. And same if you're concerned about snow level, get that up as well for the combustion air and exhaust. So again, concentric, we are certified for the flush mount kit or the bazooka type. In the right-hand image, I had asked somebody earlier about how far is that supposed to be off the dwelling, and someone told me 12 inches. Well, if you read those instructions, they're supposed to be touching, as shown here. Okay? There's a little tab on those collars that keeps you off about 1 inch. All right, so make sure you follow those instructions and how they should be installed, distance between them as well. And we've talked about this already.
How do you feel about those low profile terminations? You already told us about the bazookas.
Let's talk about that after.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so again, that flue gas recirculation, built-in sensor, so the display will actually show the contamination levels when it's elevated above the value. And our example was 8,000 parts per million of CO2. You can adjust that. You want to drop that all the way down to 2,000 parts, you go ahead. So that'll appear on the display, and it will also record the levels of contamination. So when I talked earlier today about different percentages, maybe it's only contaminating 10% of the time or 20% of the time versus 80 or 100% of the time. So it'll record those levels right on the display, and you can get in and read that as well. Clearance to combustibles, okay, and then suggested service clearances are here as well. Again, very, very simple on the propane conversion, less than 4 minutes. You just take that fitting off, or actually both fittings there, the one off the gas valve, loosen that one, take the one off the venturi, which is where your air and fuel is mixed. Don't forget you have a gasket there. We do give you a gasket kit with each boiler that's mounted inside the cabinet. And by the way, that should stay with the boilers, not go in your truck, okay? And then you have your orifice change out, and that's it. What's left is your dip switch. So again, less than 4 minutes. And then you would adjust dip switch 5 from natural to LP. Combustion setup, we've talked about the pressures. Now, also what I'm showing here is right off the top or bottom. A lot of times, guys go to the gas valves, they want to do readings, incoming gas pressure off the valve, which you can, and that's what we offer on the wall hung in smaller size, the 199 floor boiler. But with the 301 399, the gas connection off the top or the bottom would give you a test plug. And there is an O-ring gasket there, so don't drop it or lose it, guys. Be cautious of that. And you can measure your incoming gas pressure right there, as well as don't forget, we don't want to see greater than a 1 inch pressure drop, inches of water column. So it's required on all installations. Do not attempt to adjust CO2 at full fire. So these products that we've talked about here today, you only adjust CO2 at low fire. So if I go to high fire, and let's say I'm running at 10.7% CO2, I obviously have to lower that, right? So check high fire first. Am I within range or am I out of range? Now go to low fire. Now, in this example, low fire needs 8 to 10. Well, maybe I'm only running at 8.5 or 9 in low. I still have room for adjustment. Does that make sense? So you're going to adjust it now. You're going to compensate the high fire with the low fire setting. So I'm going to go clockwise, increase that. Keep my analyzer in, be patient with your analyzer, 90 seconds. Before, I would wait before I even start to do anything else. And then go back to my dip switch, shut dip switch 7 off, fix on, go back to full fire, and now I should be back below my 10.5. So compensate on low fire for high fire adjustment. Adjustments are made under the gas cap. That is a number 40's torque bit cap. So you're gonna take that cap off and then you'll have an adjustment set screw in there with a number 40's torque bit. What's included is the mounting bracket for the wall. That comes with both, when it comes with all boilers. So that's the mounting bracket and wall pad. That's really a vibration eliminator shown here on the right-hand side. Condensate trap, propane kit, outdoor sensor, mesh screens, manual, 4-in-1 adapter with relief valve, air elimination. You've got your gasket kit with extra fuse as well, condensate hose, etc. So optional accessories, we do have flush mount kits available both in 3 and 4. We have bazooka style in 3 and 4. Domestic sensor, or mixing control sensors available. Neutralizer kits are available, and the condensate pump neutralizer kits are available. Cascading kits, do I have 2 boilers, 3 boilers, or 4 boilers? So there's different cascading kit numbers there. And we don't have to worry about high altitude here in New York, but and you've got the vent screens on the 4-inch. And we have our indirect tanks, and if you're not familiar with our indirect tanks, it has a lifetime warranty with 6 years on the parts, all right? It's the industry leading limited lifetime warranty. So please familiarize yourself with the Laars indirect tank if you need an indirect tank as well. Warranties on the 301, 399 are 10-year, 5-year on the parts. Any questions? Again, this is really the big brother to the 199 floor model, and that came out this year. Okay, well, actually 2023, but so got it. Tell me when I'm off.